This past Friday, Korea commemorated the 69th anniversary of its liberation from Japanese colonial rule. And President Park Geun-hye, during her speech, suggested the two Koreas seek to improve cooperative ties in small, non-political projects, such as those involving the environment and culture.
That's right, but Pyongyang so far has shrugged off the president's proposal. For more, we are joined live in the studio by our presidential office correspondent, Choi You-sun. You-sun, thanks for being here today. So, let's go over some of the key points that President Park Geun-hye made during her speech last Friday.
Well, referring to the history of the divided Korean peninsula as abnormal, President Park highlighted the urgency of preparing for reunification. She said as the anguish generated from the separation of the two Koreas gets passed down from one generation to the next, abnormalities on the divided peninsula have become the norm. In order to bring the two sides back to the table, the South Korean president suggested the prospect of jointly managing the rivers and forests that extend through both Koreas, which is something that would benefit both sides. She also invited the North to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity Conference that's scheduled for this October in the South Korean city of Pyongyang. On the cultural front, President Park talked about jointly launching a cultural project of some sort next year to mark the 70th anniversary of liberation from Japanese colonization.
Well, bipolar North Korea easily rejected President Park Geun-hye's proposal again.
Right, playing the role of both hawk and dove, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Sunday sent a wreath and a message of condolence in memory of late former South Korean President Kim Dae-jung's passing, which was 5 years ago on this Monday. Meeting with the late president's former aides, including liberal opposition lawmaker Park Ji-won, the North's Kim Yang-gun, who is in charge of inter-Korean affairs, expressed doubt about the sincerity of Seoul's proposals at a time when it's demanding the North abandon its pursuits of a nuclear weapon. North Korea also expressed grievances over annual joint military exercises with the U.S. that started today.
And the North Korean regime considers this training to be a war game.
Right. Kim Yang-gun also stressed that Seoul would need to work towards improving inter-Korean ties without preconditions, adding pressure on the South to lift sanctions that were imposed after the North torpedoed a South Korean warship back in 2010 and to stop demanding nuclear disarmament. In its list of demands to Seoul the day before Liberation Day, Pyongyang also talked about a complete stop to Seoul's military drills with Washington and added that the non-political and civilian exchanges that President Park is suggesting are actually already included in the past declarations between the two Koreas.
So what's the prospect now? From the looks of it now, it looks like the two Koreas will continue to be in a political tug-of-war.
Right. Well, even if Pyongyang wanted to come to the high-level talks, it will likely wait until Seoul and Washington's military drills come to an end at the end of this month. But with the Park administration reaching out to Pyongyang as of late, saying the agenda at the high-level talks could be open to all matters of concern between the two Koreas, including the lifting of sanctions, there's a possibility the North may just take the South up on the offer. Lawmaker Park Ji-won said he felt that the North Koreans were anticipating renewed relations with the South and that they considered President Park to be more sincere with her North Korea policies than her predecessor. And President Park's latest proposal contained initiatives that would actually be of interest to the North Koreans, such as environmental conservation projects and improving agricultural infrastructure in the North. On the other hand, Seoul has no intention of removing the sanctions unless Pyongyang first takes full responsibility for sinking the warship Cheonan in 2010. So even if the two Koreas sit down for talks, fundamental differences will remain. But let's keep our hopes up and see what happens in the coming weeks, with the North set to respond to the offer for talks and its plans to compete in the upcoming Asian Games here in the South.
Well, let's hope for something positive to develop in the near future. Thank you, You-sun, for that report.
My pleasure.